in a big crowd because I'm not used to doing this either. Let's pray real quick. Lord, I just pray that you would just anoint this next 5 or 6 minutes, Lord, whatever is said that would be pleasing, Lord, to you, and that you would be honored and glorified by it. We just pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, I was 19 years old when I was saved. I never went to church at that time. My sister started going, and she ended up, was the first one that ended up getting saved. And then my parents and myself were all saved in one night. You thank the Baptists, for their invitation. They just love to come out and visit you. And it was a night where I had never heard anybody ask me the questions that was asked of me that night. Where would I spend eternity? Do I know the Lord? Do you know I was a sinner? And the next thing you know, after about 20 minutes, half an hour, I was on my knees, and I was asking the Lord to come into my heart. So I started going to church. I was baptized. I was attending every Sunday, and it was something totally new. I mean, I was hearing words like justification, sanctification, and redemption, and I was just thinking to myself, I hope they don't ask me to spell those words. But it was a learning, obviously it was a learning experience, still is. But 3 months later, my life was about to take a drastic turn. On October the 15th, 1972, at 7 High Street, apartment number 2 in Taunton, Massachusetts, at 7:35 p.m. I picked up a shotgun, not knowing that it was loaded, and I shot my best friend, Lee. From that point, things started to turn inside out. I didn't know exactly what to do. I was getting depressed. There was rumors going around, as you can imagine, different things were involved, drugs, alcohol, all that stuff, which wasn't true. My pastor at the time saw what was going on, and he took me under his wing, and we started to meet, and I had a court date. I was charged with assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. And he said, when you get back, stop by the office. And so I went to the court date. My lawyer went to talk to the DA, but he wouldn't even see him. He didn't want to have anything to do with him. They wanted to put me away for 10 years. So I went back to the church, went into my pastor's office, and he could just tell by the look on my face that things didn't go well. So I sat down and I told him what happened. And he got his Bible, and he opened it up to 1 Peter, and he handed it to me. And verses 3 through 5 say, basically say, which talks about being born again. He reminded me about what Christ has done for me, what he on the cross, that I have that living hope in him of the resurrection of our Lord. And then he asked me, said, go ahead and start reading in verse 6, and it says, "In this you rejoice, though now for a little while, if necessary, you have been grieved by various trials. And I was going through my first one, and it was a big one. So that the tested genuineness of your faith, and he said, stop right there. He goes, where's your faith? He says, where is it right now? And I said, nowhere to be found. He says, I said, I was so down that I didn't know which way to look. And he reminded me about what Christ did. And he said, Christ can do anything. God can do anything. God can turn this whole thing into a blessing, he said. And at the time, I couldn't see that. At the time, I really couldn't. And so he said that I just needed to have faith and just trust in Jesus. And that your faith being much more precious than gold that perishes, though it is tested by fire. And he goes, you got to remember that no matter how much gold that could be set aside, that your faith has to be much more precious to you than that gold, even though it's being tested right now. He said. And so, that it may be found to result in praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ, he said. So, we started meeting on a regular basis. We fast forward 3 years, and that's how long it took to get this resolved. But God had a plan. Didn't know it, at the time, but he did. He had a plan in this whole thing. Because even my lawyer said that he's never heard of a case that's taken 3 years to resolve. But the reason why is because the old DA was voted out of office, and a new one was voted in. And he went down there on the very first day to talk to him. And he said that he's been following this case for the last 3 years. And he says it really needs to be resolved. And so the DA said that if I pleaded guilty, that he would put me on 5 years probation. And at the time, when I was told this, I said, God answered my prayer, because I prayed that God would help me no matter what happened, that I would own up and take responsibility for what I did, even though it was an accident. And so that's what I was doing there, by pleading guilty. But God put me on 5 years probation, so I didn't have to spend 10 years in prison. But God wasn't done yet, because the 5 years of probation that I was on, I was going to Baptist Bible College in Springfield, Missouri. My probation officer was a born-again Christian. He personally took my case. He made no holds barred, though. He was my probation officer, and he made that clear. Now, even though he told me that he was born again, I still had to, be there on time every time that I was supposed to be there. So fast forward 2 years, and then I walked into his office one day, and he said, Steve, he said, just hold on a second. And he said, this is only going to take a couple of minutes. And he handed me some paperwork. He flipped it over to the very last page, had my name printed on the bottom. And he says, I want you to sign this. I didn't even look at what I was signing, but I signed it. I handed it back to him. And he said to me, no, I don't want to see you in here anymore. Wow. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, I put in for an early put in for an early release. No, but God wasn't done yet. Because he gave me the opportunity to be able to go see my friend Lee. See, because he didn't die that night. But he ended up being a quadriplegic. And God opened up the door where I could go and see him. So I was able to talk to him. And I guess I wanted to ask him something, and I wanted to tell him something. I wanted to ask him to forgive me, and he said he would, because he said he knew that I wouldn't do something like that on purpose. And I wanted to take the time to talk to him about Jesus. Because Lee accepted the Lord that day. Wow. Amen. 10 years to the day, October the 15th, 1982, Lee passed away. But I know where he is.
Amen.
He's with the Lord. And I know that when my day comes, we'll be together.
Amen.